Daredevil Born Again Season 1 has finally come to a close, and I'm going to give my thoughts about it. Last night marked the final episode of Season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, and fantastic episode. I'm going to go into more specifics about the episode, but before then, I'm just going to talk about the series as a whole, or the season as a whole, the production as a whole, because it's kind of all over the place. And I can't really explain the pros I had with this series without really understanding the sort of complexities that the cons of the series gave. So it's going to be kind of segmented around like the finale and like some of the good episodes, or like the episodes made by the new creators, which I believe is Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, or vice versa, Aaron Benson, Justin, I don't know. But so it's kind of be split up like that. But starting off, I was extremely excited for this show. It was announced 3 years ago, and like I've said in some of my shorter reviews for like episode reviews, there was an original idea for the show, which was a disastrous idea for the show. And essentially, we were going to sort of soft reboot Daredevil as a show. This wasn't going to be Daredevil Season 4. This wasn't going to be Daredevil on Netflix. This was going to be a new thing, but Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox will be back. We're going to recast Vanessa. Foggy and Karen will not have like any involvement in this show, and this is not going to be rated R, and it was a whole thing. And there was just a lot of mixed buzz with that, and there was just a lot of things that were not going well for the show. Now, of course, this later had a complete creative overhaul mid 2023, I want to say, and we brought in the Punisher creators and writers. We brought back Foggy and Karen. We brought back Vanessa. Vanessa was going to be recasted. This was going to be rated R. John Bernthal was back in as Punisher. This was going to be Daredevil, essentially Daredevil Season 4 in its full-fledged Disney Marvel Studios television form. And that created a lot of hype for it, and there was a lot of hype for it, and there was a lot of hype from me, and there was a lot of hype from other people leading up to this, but still a lot of skepticism, and I think that skepticism paid off. Now, before I get into the cons, let's start with the good. I know a lot of people had a lot of gripes with killing off Foggy at the beginning of the show, and I did, but honestly, I'm all for just killing characters off. Let's just do it. I mean, it's really gutsy, I feel like, when a show does that. And I think that's something that early seasons of The Walking Dead did really well. But it tore Walking Dead off the rails, but I kind of like a good character kill off that sort of brings an emotional weight to the show. And I think that's what Foggy really did for Charlie Cox and Matt Murdock. It was very sudden, it was very tragic, and we felt that, and Matt Murdock felt that. It made him break his coat and toss Bullseye off that building, which was a crazy opening to the season. Something that was done so well throughout this first season was just Matt's arc of just dealing with Foggy and dealing with his identity. Was like a killer or not a killer, vigilante, not a vigilante. And we've seen that before in the original show. We've seen it many times, but I think the fact that this was all due by the death of his best friend just gave it more of a emotional weight. And you can really feel the conflict in Matt's persona as Matt Murdock and as Daredevil. And I honestly think, despite the Foggy-shaped hole in this season, I think in the long run it is going to be better for the characters, for Karen, for Matt, and I think these new creators handled that story the best they could. And I honestly don't have as much gripes with the Foggy death as a lot of other people. Another addition this season is a very lived-in New York. I feel like we moved out of Hell's Kitchen a little bit, but we sort of have really gotten into a lot of like the just day-to-day lawyering stuff that Matt Murdock's doing, and especially we get to the Hector Ayala White Tiger trial. I think that is probably hands down some of the best courtroom drama stuff that we've gotten from Daredevil. And I love that. And that was part of the original show. This wasn't like the new creator stuff. This was like stitched together from the old stuff. And I really liked this stuff a lot. I thought it was just really Matt Murdock defending more vigilantes. We obviously saw it with the Punisher, but it was done so well. It was written so well. Me and other people, we didn't really know how this trial was going to end. And then for White Tiger to just get killed off immediately after the trial, that sort of sets Matt off the edge to really put that mask back on, or a part of the steps to it. Obviously, Muse was a big part in that. But I feel like that was done so well, and that felt very focused. I think those first few episodes were very focused and very well stitched together for like a mix of new and old footage. Obviously, that new first episode really tying everything together. Now, let's get to the middle to close to the end of the season. And one thing that I can clearly state is I don't think any of the cons that I'm going to list, or most of the cons I'm going to list, have nothing to do with the new showrunners, nothing to do with the new writers, nothing to do with the cast. I think everyone is doing the best of their abilities. I think the great Sean Chandler said it best in his latest thoughts on the show is all the pieces were there by the new creative team, but they were sort of built upon a faulty foundation. Whereas this new creative team has these really cool ideas that we definitely see built up in these final 2 episodes, but these new ideas are sort of stitched together throughout these old ideas and the old footage. And not that I disliked a lot of the old ideas from the original show, it's just that the fact that we have the new creative ideas and the old creative ideas needing to be stitched together, it kind of led to a very poorly paced set of episodes, especially in that middle section. Whereas I feel like we could have easily progressed Matt's and Fisk's arc from regular citizen or regular lawyer and regular mayor to the Devil of Hell's Kitchen and to Kingpin. I feel like we definitely could have progressed to that a lot sooner than we did, because there was a natural growth there. I feel like if we had just introduced Muse sooner, we could have just got into that return or that rebirth, that born again for those characters, and that arc could have been handled a lot sooner, and we could have spent more time with the Muse storyline or spent more time with the Punisher task force storyline. But instead, it was stretched out across multiple episodes because simply we just had a ton of old footage and old storyline to sift through, where we couldn't just focus on Muse the whole time. We couldn't focus on the Punisher task force the whole time because we had the Hector trial. We had 3 episodes of the Hector trial. Now we got to get through Muse. We got to introduce all these new things that the new creative team wanted to do. And it was just honestly all over the place. It was just poorly paced, hard to follow, and stretched all the characters and stretched all the tension like butter, just across 9 episodes. And I think the most disappointing part was that I liked a lot of the ideas. I liked all the old ideas. I liked all the new ideas. It's just the meshing of those together, the trying to fix the old footage and the new footage together, just made it sort of a mess. And on top of that, there is a Karen and a Foggy sized hole through most of this season. And I probably don't even have to say Karen and Foggy size hole. Let's just say there's a interesting character sized hole in this season, where in the original show, Matt Murdock and Daredevil as the show are elevated by his supporting cast. He's elevated by Karen. He's elevated by Foggy. He's elevated by Elektra. He's elevated by the Punisher. We don't have that here for most of the show. We don't have that. We have all these old characters from the rerun of the show, or the original idea for the show, don't have their time for character growth, don't really have any connection to Matt other than what has just been set up in this new season, and they're just not interesting. They're boring. They're boring as crap. We've got generic cop characters and the generic lawyer partner character that's not Foggy, and generic love interest that spirals into Vanessa and Wilson's therapist. It's just hard to watch. They're hard to watch. I could care less about every single new character introduced in this show besides Michael Gandolfini's Daniel, which I think he does a good job, and I think he does a really good job mirroring Fisk and wanting to live up to Wilson's expectations, and also is very much giving me like a Penguin and a Victor type of vibe, because honestly, Wilson's definitely playing up Daniel to take the fall for a lot of things that could happen in the future. But apart from Daniel, we just have a boring supporting cast, and in turn leaves Daredevil with not a lot to Matt and Daredevil with not a lot to work with, because he doesn't have those other great side characters lifting him up. And you know that's the case, because when Matt is with Frank, and even in like episode 4, and when Matt is with Frank in the finale, you feel the tension, you feel the writing, you just feel the chemistry there. And the same thing with Karen and Foggy. Karen and Foggy in the intro, you're like, it's good to be back. With Karen's scenes in like episode 2, I believe, or like later in episode 1, it's good to be back. I'm invested in this. In the finale, I'm invested with this. This is a return to form. We needed Karen here. She makes the Matt character just so much better. She makes the Punisher character so much better. She just amplifies every scene she's in, because she's an interesting character and we care about her. And she's had the time, she's had the writing to make you want to be invested in her. She wasn't replaced in by new cast members in the original show, and they're like, oh, well, this is my old friend, this is the new supporting cast. No, she wasn't. She's an interesting character. She stayed on. We've learned more about her. She's been here since the beginning. And I think the fact that the original idea for the show wanted nothing to do with these supporting cast just goes to show how out of their minds they were to not connect us to the MCU and not connect this to the original show. Because if they didn't, it would be disastrous, just by the little taste of the original show that we got with this new season. Now, let's talk about some of these cons remedied by these last 2 episodes. Now, obviously, it was a rough go. I feel like the episodes were all over the place. There was stuff I really liked, there's stuff I wasn't liked. We didn't get the suit much, we didn't get Daredevil much. Supporting cast was really boring, except for Daniel. It was just all over the place. And then the new creative team took over. And there was no more old footage. This was all the original vision that the new creators of Daredevil Born Again wanted to have. And right from the get-go, you can sort of just feel the up in quality and the up in care and reverence for the original show that these new creators have. Right off from the bat, Poindexter. All right? Poindexter is such a good character. Bullseye is such a good character. And for him to kill Foggy and lead Matt into this sort of spiraling arc that we see throughout this show, it was so great to have him back, and everything he's doing throughout that second to last episode is just building up the tension. We have smaller things happening in that second to last episode that are sort of setting things up. We're setting up the Crooked Task Force. We're setting up the Swordsman and Kingpin, and the Commissioner and Kingpin, and Heather and Matt are fighting, and Kingpin knows that Daredevil's back, and all this is just rising tension, bubbling up, and in the background, Poindexter is back, and he wants revenge, and you can just see such a stark difference between the, I guess, focus of that second to last episode and honestly all the episodes that came before it, minus episode 1. The up in quality was just absolutely insane. And that's when I was like, okay, we're so back. And the finale, the up in quality, the character interactions and writing between Punisher and Daredevil, between Daredevil and Matt, between Kingpin and all his other subordinates, Kingpin and Vanessa and Poindexter. It was all there, and it was all working. The action was brutal and bloody. There were stakes. All the stakes that were set up in the last episode were paid off. It all rose to this boiling point, and it all just exploded. And it exploded in a climactic final episode. And it was fantastic. It was an incredible episode. But at the end of the day, I look back on 2 really, really good episodes and then look back on a semi-mess of a season as a whole. And it just disappoints me. It disappoints me. Yeah, I mean, it really does. And yes, I know, it wasn't the original idea for the show. We're mixing 2 ideas for the show. I understand. I can still state these things to shed some light on the sort of stupidity that the original idea for the show was bringing into this series. Because I just can't imagine what it could have been like if they had gone, if that was what we got, was that full idea for the original series. Because it was semi-tolerable with the new reshoots shot in and the new idea for the story. It was semi-tolerable, and then the finale brought it back home. But it still exists. I still had to sit through it, and I still think about the sort of poorly pacing when I think about the incredible last 2 episodes. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm being overtly negative, and I probably am, just because I love Daredevil, I love the original show, and I really love these last 2 episodes and what the new creative team is sort of bringing to everything. I really like that a lot, and I think that's why the sort of mishaps from the original team kind of annoy me a little bit, and why I can get a little heated about this. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. But I do have hope for season 2. I do have hope for this new creative team. In this new creative team, I trust. And at the end of the day, I got to spend more time with Charlie Cox as Daredevil. And in the end, we got some crazy Punisher and Daredevil action. We got great interactions between Karen and Matt and Frank and Matt and the whole 9 yards. And I think the last 2 episodes did show that these new guys know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And I'm glad they could still salvage the old show with the new ideas and make it still a tolerable watch. Like, I enjoyed a lot of the stuff I got. I just think it was still a pretty big mess. Not a flop, not bad. It was just kind of all over the place. And I feel like the original creators could have easily made it not all over the place. And you have to put that on a new creative team to make this sort of fit in and work. But yeah. That was my Daredevil. That was my Daredevil rant. But overall, love the last 2 episodes, love the first episode. I love where the season has set up for things to go in the future, and I'm glad we're getting a season every year and a season that can focus on the new creative team and focus on their vision, because that is what I want. I want the new creator's vision. I don't want whatever the old team wanted. And I think we're going to get some really cool stuff from them. Overall, really enjoyed the finale, and I am very excited to see where these new creators are taking the show. They set it up very well in these last 2 episodes, and I do want to give my props to the new crew working on the show. No matter what conditions they were under, just sort of try and fix and mix everything in, I still think they did make a very decent season of television with this season of Daredevil Born Again. I do think it's decent. It just has some very glaring problems that the original creators have presented, and I think it's just nice to note those problems for future reference, Marvel. Just remember, before you go ruin another great IP, just remember, don't do what that old team was doing. Look at what this new team is doing. Like, we had Punisher and Daredevil fighting dirty cops in like an apartment, and they jump out the window and swing away as a grenade blows up the building. That's freaking sick. That's sick. We have Punisher being as brutal as he can be, and we have Kingpin smashing heads in. Like, that's what I want. And I want great writing. I don't want a Muse episode where he's introduced and then he's killed in like 30 minutes. A great Daredevil character. Sort of sidelined so we could, I don't know. What was even Muse? What even was that? I'm not going to get into more gripes right now. I'm going to go on a whole other tangent. But enjoyed the last 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again. Had an overall mixed total season. And I'm excited for season 2. Now, overall, as a rating, I think I would give the season a B-. Much of that is carried by those last 2 episodes a lot, and as well as like some of like the White Tiger stuff. I really like that, and just I enjoyed Daredevil, so I'd probably give it like 80% out of 100, or like 3.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. If we could review shows on Letterboxd, please let us review shows. That's what you gotta do next. That's the next big step. But yeah, overall, an enjoyable watch over the past few weeks. I've loved breaking it down for you guys and reviewing it, and I've loved critiquing it, and I've loved praising it, and I think this season has plenty of praises and plenty of critiques, and much like a lot of Marvel things. But yeah, excited for season 2, and excited to shift my reviewing onto Last of Us and Andor, which you will get every week. And we're almost at 50 subscribers, the big 50. So please subscribe so I can buy more vinyls. How about that? And then I can show you my vinyl collection. So get us to 50 subscribers, and I'll play the Buddy Holly riff on my guitar for you guys.